Chiefs Kingdom, welcome in to a playoff edition of AP Breakdown, a divisional round edition. We are back here. I'm Ron Kopp Jr., the lead analyst at arrowheadpride.com. With me, as always, Caleb James at CJ Scoobs on Twitter. Just a couple of days away from being at Arrowhead and getting ready for another playoff run here in Kansas City. Fired up for it. Divisional round weekend's just great in general, but I like leading off. I like leading off as the first game and then get to settle in and watch the rest of the games. Caleb, you ready for divisional round weekend?
Absolutely, man. It feels like it's been a long time since we've actually seen like the real Chiefs play. It's been Christmas Day, and here we are encroaching on the middle of January. So they've had a ton of time to rest. But I mean, what we saw that last regular season game against Denver, that was not the real Chiefs by any stretch of the imagination. No matter what the Denver Broncos and their fans want to think, but I'm just excited to see the Chiefs get out there and kind of kick off their playoff run as they're trying to go for this historic three-peat.
Yeah, how'd you like that Sean Payton quote? Saying they felt pretty good about the next team they would have saw, which is only the Chiefs. That was the only possible opponent they could have played the next round. So clearly thinking he could have had a shot to get to the AFC Championship if they wouldn't have lost 31-7 to Buffalo.
Well,
And it's
I
like, come
mean,
on, Sean Payton.
beat beat the team you're matched up against, and then maybe you can come talk. Don't get blown out on the road.
Yeah, and Buffalo, that's a good lead into that big game Sunday. Again, nice to have the Saturday game so we can just sit back, relax Sunday afternoon, watch that Bills Ravens game. Any inklings there, Caleb? I mean, that regular season matchup was such a blowout. The Ravens just controlled everything about that game, just ran the crap out of the ball. This Bills defense playing that nickel defense, not really wanting to get into heavier sets on defense, really can set them up for that. So I don't know. I mean, when you look at that, I kind of look at the Ravens, but I don't know. You think the Bills have a chance to defend home field there?
Well, I think there's going to be a lot of points put up in that one, regardless. Just because I think Baltimore's defense isn't quite what it used to be, but then you look back and you have the Bills defense this week. Despite their blowout win, they still gave up some yards on the ground to Buffalo here, or not to Buffalo, to Denver here and there.
Oh yeah.
So I'll be curious to see what happens. I'm tending to lean towards. I'm going to lean a little towards Buffalo just because I think Josh Allen is playing that good right now, and I think the Ravens defense is a little bit susceptible. But obviously, this is going to be a marquee matchup. It's the first time these two rivals of the Chiefs have seen each other in the playoffs, so there's going to be that captivation between Allen and Jackson, the two guys, in the front runner for MVP right now.
Yeah, no, that's the thing with Allen, and that's where if you're a Chiefs fan, I mean, tell me in the comments what you guys think if you're watching, but I think you almost want to see the Ravens. I think you think about this Chiefs defense, you think about who it performs better against, because I think that's the key thing when you think about the Chiefs. Like, you don't worry about the offense. Whoever they're playing on, they're playing. They'll get it done in the postseason. It's about who the defense matches up best against, and Josh Allen does seem to have this defense's number to an extent, a little more than Lamar, it feels like. Is that who, if you're thinking from a Chiefs perspective, I mean, is that who maybe you would want to see move on as the Ravens just because Josh Allen is on another level right now?
To me, it doesn't matter because we've seen Josh Allen before playing really good football, and the regular season goes the way it goes. But the Chiefs have still not lost to Buffalo in the postseason, and the only postseason matchup they've had against Jackson, they were able to win a real rock fight last year. I don't know if that'd be the same this year, but really, I mean, they're both really good. Both teams are really good. To me, it doesn't make too much of a difference who you play. Yeah, I think the Bills are playing a little bit better right now, but also Lamar has those streaks of play where he's just incredible for 3 or 4 games. Like, it's the most unbelievable football you'll see outside of the guy wearing 15 for the Chiefs. So I don't think it like makes that much of a difference because you're going to be getting a tough, hungry opponent either way.
Yeah, and Shady L here, he says, do not want to see Lamar. I mean, that's the thing. Yeah, both these quarterbacks just playing at a level right now that, yeah, you prefer to not see either of them. But if the Chiefs, if things go the right way on Saturday, the Chiefs will definitely be welcoming in one of the MVP front runners into Arrowhead. And so, yeah, that game's going to be great on Sunday. The run games for both teams. both defenses are kind of similar where, they get pressure or that, their upfront play is about kind of a team effort. There's not really too many individual just studs, right? Obviously Matabuke on the Ravens is probably the top guy among the group. But the back end, I think you look at Baltimore. Baltimore's got more guys in the back end, it feels like, where Buffalo does feel like they're kind of having to make that team effort in the back end that can be exposed with talent like the Chiefs have. So, the Buffalo defense may be, easier or just kind of a better opponent maybe for the Chiefs, if you think about it certain ways. But going to be a great matchup either way. I don't know. It's setting up for a great game. Any thoughts on the NFC games before we get into the good stuff?
Yeah, I think Washington and Detroit's going to be a better game than people think it will be. I just think that Detroit's defense is beat up. That's the one thing I think a lot of people forgot. Now they had a really good game against the Vikings, who may or may not have been fraudulent based on what we saw against their game against the Rams. But really, with as beat up as the Lions defense is, and as well as Washington has looked on offense with Jaden Daniels, I think that could be a close game. I mean, it's the divisional week, and they're probably all going to be close games in some regard. And I still think I'd take Detroit. I just think that Washington's going to give them a scare. And then I think, I do think that there is a good chance the Rams could go into Philly and possibly get a dub. Yeah. I don't think it's outrageous to say that the Rams have been incredibly hot the second half of the season, just in the way they've played. Matt Stafford's been good. They've ran the ball well, and their defense has played outstanding football also. Obviously, the Eagles have all the things to counter a good defense. They have all the weapons that you would need, but the Eagles didn't look particularly sharp against Green Bay either.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. And I think the Eagles offense it has talent. It has, the run game, obviously, but Jalen Hurts just hit or miss to me. And the guy who doesn't feel as hit or miss, at least in the crucial moments, Jaden Daniels. And I think that's exactly why I agree that game, it probably would have to be a shootout to be a close game. The Washington's going to have to keep up with a Lions offense that could really, really, run all over that Washington defense, I think. But yeah, Max says it best. Don't let Jaden have it last. I think if Washington gets in a situation where, they're only down maybe 3 points or, 2 points, 3 points, and Jaden Daniels has that ball last, there's a chance they could bring it home. And Shady L real quick also says Rams can roll Philly right out the building. The one thing with that game, I will say, Stafford outside, he's always that dome quarterback. And, I could see maybe that just being a little bit enough to throw out that passing game, because he does have up and down games. It feels like there's games where he's all over the place, but not recently, and especially not in the playoffs. He's he's had those home games though. So maybe this is a way, we don't see the best of Stafford. But I don't know. Any final thoughts on NFC? Let's, we got some Chiefs to talk. I know that's where the people are here. So.
Yep. Let's get into it. Obviously, we're talking about all this stuff for these situations, but we really need the Chiefs to just go ahead.
We got to take care of business.
Yeah, we need to go ahead and try to stand on business a little bit here as we're getting ready for this one. But I'm talking about the Texans pass rush, and I thought they were outstanding. I thought they absolutely made a difference in the way Justin Herbert played. I think they led to a lot of the interceptions and how uncomfortable he felt throughout the course of the game. And really, they've got their two guys, but then they've got some other talent too. Like, we'll get into Will Anderson. We'll get into Danielle Hunter here in a second. But how about like a guy like Danico Autry, just grizzled veteran, been on a lot of teams, been in the league a long time, never really had a chance to compete for a playoff contender like this. And he just makes quick work of Jamari Sawyer, the right guard there. He had like 3.5 sacks on the regular season. He came away with some big plays, showing off some interior pass rush that the Texans have quietly had this season. And the Texans front, they are extremely athletic. They're all a little bit undersized by traditional standards. They are super athletic, and you just see that play he has there, just a nice little rip, or not just a nice little swim to get past the reaching Sawyer. Obviously, though, the Chargers guards, they are built more for grinding it out, running the ball, quick hitting sets. That's what the Chargers, they're not like built to go against these like super duper athletic pass rushers that these guys have. So I did think that was going to a scheme advantage for the Chargers, or not the Chargers, the Texans.
Yeah. Well, and it brings up an immediate question when you talk about, inside rushers. We don't know whether the Chiefs are going DJ Humphries or Joe Tooney at left tackle yet. Excuse me. But that guard position, if it's Caliendo, that's a weak point that a Texans pass rush with a guy like Autry who's maybe feeling it right now. He's going to target that and really try to get after him. And you saw maybe Caliendo struggle at times against Cam Hayward in Pittsburgh, which who wouldn't? But that just might be, a reason where, you see the Chiefs maybe lean towards having Tooney back at left guard and DJ Humphries back at left tackle. We can continue to lay that out.
Possibly. I do think, though, with like the guys around Caliendo, they hide him a little bit better than the Chargers do. The Chargers have some good guards, but like the Texans also scheme some stuff open. Like they take advantage of the Chargers pass protection rules. You see pre-snap the center. He's showing out like looks like he's pointing. I think he's more calling that they're like going full slide to the right or protecting everything to their inside gap to the right, which is kind of what it looks like. And if you take a look at Joe Alt, the right tackle, he is a man coming from depth. So you're saying, well, why is he not blocking the defensive end? It's because this guy rushing 39 technically has the fastest path to the quarterback, so he's got to go down and take him. You see they show it on the right, but then they kind of bring the pressure with guys dropping off the left. But unfortunately, I don't like this call here by them because you're leaving Will Anderson untouched off the edge. He's absolutely athletic enough and fast enough to be able to smoke a quarterback if you're not even going to lay a hand on him. So I wasn't a big fan of that protection, like of the protection idea that you just are going to leave that guy. I don't think the Chiefs are going to come out in a ton of empty. I also think the Chiefs are relatively pretty good when it comes to needing to having running backs in the backfield just for blocking help and then obviously running routes. So I don't anticipate a ton of empty that's going to be like Pat holding the ball for very long. And then you see just another play here. Like this is a great play by Edwards here, but you take a look at it. I mean, you can't just let a guy go through. There's miscommunication. I don't get this. I mean, the Chargers all season, Jim Harbaugh said our offensive linemen are weapons. You can't have this mix up in week 19 or whatever week of the season it is, week 18, whatever. I mean, look at this. So look, they've got a slide right going here. And it makes sense because Texans have 1, 2, 3 all to the right of the center. These are all pass rushers. They've got one lone man off to the right. They've got a little cornerback out there, and then they've got their middle linebacker hanging. They've got 39 kind of in the box also. They play like a lot of these loose fronts like this. They're trying to get their athletes on the field. But you see they've got the slide right, but for whatever reason, I don't know what the guard is doing. There's like no imminent threat. Like 27's there. Right. But you have a running back also on that same side. So it's like there's not like an imminent threat. And to me, it would be like, hey, the back and the offensive tackle, they're responsible for the two coming off. Hey, left guard, you have to slide right and get into the protection. And I think the center thinks that also because you sit here and you see they both kind of look at him. The center's eyeballing his A gap, which is what I think he's supposed to be doing here. And the guard just kind of swats at him. I don't know what that is, but that is a mistake I don't think the Chiefs will make, thankfully. I do think even if it is Mike Caliendo in there, I think the guy who's in the process of becoming a doctor, if you didn't know that, Mike Caliendo is in the process of becoming a doctor.
Oh, wow. We got an LDT situation all over again?
He is a like LDT and Allegretti put together type situation. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that will be a mistake the Chiefs make, though. I think that's just a bad protection plan by the Chargers.
Yeah, no, that was exactly what I wanted to come in with. Was just you can't expect a Chiefs, a veteran offensive line, even if Caliendo's a young individual, maybe a weak link in certain areas where it's pass protection, it's just straight up he's getting the one-on-one. Yeah, he's going to be a target. But when it comes to like communication, when it comes to getting those calls right, I feel very good the Chiefs offensive line gets it done.
And one thing the Texans are also good at with athletes, they create a ton of movement up front. You've got two guys off over here. You've basically got a linebacker and an edge rusher on the left side there. And on the right side, you see Will Anderson there wide with two other defensive linemen. So you've got 5 on the line of scrimmage. The Chargers have a back in protection, but just watch what happens. So on the top of the screen here, they basically run like a modified edge. It'd be an edge tackle twist or an end tackle twist, but they're doing the twister as a defensive or as a linebacker just to add that extra bit of athletic ability to be able to kind of get up the field. They picked on Joe Alt a little bit. He's not the most mobile guy in the world. But on the other side, they have their two in here, their two defensive tackles. They are coming out, so they're running like almost a super loop. And the super looper is going to be Will Anderson, who is going to run from the outside C gap all the way to the opposite A gap. And he blows by the center here, who almost gets him, but he's just too quick. And hey, he doesn't get the sack, but he knocks Herbert down. He forces an incomplete pass. Man, they even on the plays they didn't get to Herbert, they were still after him. They were still knocking him down. That was the one thing I noticed. I think that made Herbert uncomfortable. At one point in the game, it may have been after this play, Herbert came up holding his elbow. Like, I think that they might have gotten after him a little bit, made him uncomfortable, and that may have led to some of the bad throws. I think there was something up with his arm.
Well, when you think about looking forward to this Chiefs game on Saturday, you talk about, the Chiefs last time they played having the quick passes out. They only allowed one sack. I know Shady L asked about that, but just one sack allowed. It was on a really well-designed blitz. But they got the ball out really quick. It was one of Mahomes' all-time, lowest average time to throws. But if you're the Texans, that's what they want to do now, or what the Chiefs want to do. That's where the Chiefs do have to find ways to scheme up enough protection and get those deep plays downfield. Because I do think the Texans are going to really challenge them on quick throws, and try to, take away quick stuff and make Mahomes hold it and get that pass rush home.
Yeah, and then just showing off kind of another one of those plays where they get home. You see Daniil Hunter on the left, Will Anderson to the right. Anderson is going to come wide. He's bringing the speed. Actually, Anderson on this one, he goes straight for the bull rush. Pardon me on that. Wrong clip I was breaking down here, but we got Daniil Hunter. He's bringing this bull rush straight into Alt, and he's trying to get around. He kind of gets around him a little bit, but then you see just the pressure from up the middle from, it looks like, yep. I believe that was Mario Edwards in there. They've got their linebacker blitzing. So that's just another one of the little, formation deals they'll run, one of the twist games that they'll run to get people. They have a lot of different things they can do. They are pretty versatile, kind of like how, Spags keeps his guys, they can do a lot of different things. They have a lot of different formations just based on what they can do.
Danico Autry he's always been an underrated edge rusher. And, underrated edge rushers make great situational inside rushers. So, I think he is someone that definitely the Chiefs need to, just have a handle on.
And look at that play from him right there. I mean, he went. They went to work on these Chargers guards. I mean, they absolutely went to work on these guys. They were blowing them up. A couple of guys in their, second, third year players for the Chargers in their guard position. But you take a look at this play. I mean, he just hits him with a long arm bull rush, almost gets to Herbert. And Herbert can't set his feet, fires an incomplete pass. So there was a lot of clips like that, man.
Yeah, well, this speaks to, and you do trust the Chiefs offensive line more. I think a lot of what you just showed kind of just tells you that the Chargers offensive line maybe wasn't up to the task. You trust Chiefs offensive line no matter what version of it is on Saturday. You trust that, but it also just tells us the importance staying ahead of the sticks, making sure that run game is a big part of the offense, big part of the scheme, and setting up play action to to kind of help the pass rush maybe not fly off the ball. Those are the kind of things the Chiefs definitely need to make kind of establish on offense to help against those situations where it's 3rd and 10, and you have this spread out like this, and Danico Autry is just running right over, and Mario Edwards has a chance to I mean, those are all defensive end type players that are running inside. Those are the kind of defense or pass rushes that can wreak havoc, and obviously they did last week.
True, but also the best way, and that was a good spin move, but the best way to beat kind of guys like that, though, just historically, I'll find just a couple more clips to throw up here, but the best way to beat guys like that is historically to run the ball, and that's kind of what the Chiefs did do last time they played the Texans. I thought it was a pretty dominant run blocking effort just from the Chiefs up front in general. It was pretty impressive to me to see what they could do. And let me try to find one more good clip here.
Well, no, I think last time when you saw it, Pacheco was just kind of getting back into the mix. I believe it might have been one of his first games. If could be wrong on that. Yeah, Hollywood Brown, it was his first game too. But But no, that's one thing a little underrated about the run game. Pacheco maybe being, rested up, kind of fresh. He's had a little bang ups even after he got back from, he had a rib injury. So a fresh Pacheco kind of hammering away with Kareem as well. I should say Kareem hammering away and Pacheco maybe getting those explosive runs when the defense is worn down. That's the recipe right there.
Yeah. And you do see, though, like the Texans leave some gaps in their defense. Like these are some big lanes they have open right here. Like just from their middle linebacker over here to the other linebacker in the box. Like this is some space. Like this is a lot of space to work with. If you give the Chiefs that much space, they are going to run. This is the play I thought I was showing earlier. You just have Will Anderson really working the arc, bending the arc. Herbert's starting to feel it, but it's making him uncomfortable, so he tries to step up. But then you see Danielle Hunter just being long and athletic and explosive, blowing Alt into the backfield there. And he, just that little bit, like you see Herbert's feet here just at the end of the rep, like he's like leaning forward, his feet aren't set. That's not a comfortable position for him to throw the ball, and it ends up being incomplete. Justin Herbert didn't play a very good football game. I don't think the Chiefs are going to gift the Texans quite what the Chargers did. I think if the Chiefs go up 2 possessions in the red zone, I think they score, and I think that makes things really difficult on the Texans like it could have been, because the Texans defense didn't look good early. Like they settled in. It took them some time to settle into the game, but those first 2 drives, like the Chargers scripted plays, they did cook them.
The Chargers had a chance to, they 6-0, I mean, that could have been 14-0. They had a chance in that game. 32-12 was a very odd result, but it kind of tells you how the Chargers chargered, which we have seen them do. Herbert is 0-2 in playoff, and both games have been very Charger-ish. If everyone remembers them blowing a 27-point lead or whatever it was in Jacksonville a couple years ago, that was insane. But yeah, no, I feel good about the Chiefs offense. Even if the Houston defense has momentum, they're going to be feeling themselves. It could be one of those things where maybe right out the gate, the Chiefs offense doesn't maybe get into a rhythm and they have to find it a little bit because the Texans are kind of jumping on stuff and just kind of playing very aggressive. And the Chiefs have not played a full football game in a while, but I think they get into it in a rhythm. But I really think the reason they can, maybe that game can play out and we still feel good is because I think this Chiefs defense is prime to really, really dominate this matchup. I think there's a chance if they play, to the way that we have seen them play before. Jalen Watson is on a full participant in practice all week. He is set to play. Nate Taylor reported that he's expected to start. I mean, if we have him back, that's the one kind of, hole in the defense where you're like, oh man, the explosive pass plays. But when you look at a Houston defense, and I think this is where we can start when you look back at last week, we all saw Tank Dell unfortunately get hurt in that Week 16 game. And that, was obviously one of, that was their secondary, guy in the receiving core. They lost Stephon Diggs earlier this season to another season-ending injury. So now it really is just Nico Collins. You have Dalton Schultz too, which, obviously the Chiefs are susceptible to the tight end position. You definitely got to make sure, you have a little, focus on him. But you saw the Chargers have not an ability to take away Nico Collins over the middle. There was a cool stat from Next Gen Stats that Nico Collins had 122 receiving yards last week. 104 of them came on in-breaking routes. And so these are just, whether it was a deep out like you just saw, whether it was this slant for a touchdown, you're going to see another one that was a big play in the game. No matter what level of the field it is, that's what the Texans want to do is they want to get Nico the ball, over the middle because he's big. He can get those, tight window throws. But you're seeing the yak ability too, where he's athletic and can kind of run through tackles and maybe make bigger plays out of them. So that's kind of, that's what the Texans want to get Nico Collins doing. Now, I will show it, but in the Week 16 matchup, that's not necessarily, what the Texans were able to get done. Nico Collins had one of his least efficient days all season. And the few big plays he had were on sideline routes where, you can't get the safety help. Safeties aren't as easy to get over and help. Those are kind of more isolated plays. And he only had a few, right? Like, and it just tells you that, the Chiefs have a defense that I think understands, the strengths of other offenses better and knows how to take them away. Because I think the Chargers just failed to kind of, with Nico Collins being the only true threat, you really got to make sure, he doesn't have the game he did But let's look back at this game in week 16 and show you what I'm talking about with how the Chiefs defended Nico Collins. And we'll start with the interception that Jaden Hicks had, because this is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. You know, CJ Stroud and Nico Collins, they want to work over the middle. And I'll show you here. Let's get to that. It's Joshua Williams over the top of him because, and you know, here's an interesting wrinkle from the week 16 matchup and something I didn't realize until I watched back, which I kind of feel dumb. You know, they were using Trent McDuffie quite a bit in the slot this game. You know, it wasn't, you know, what you saw in previous games where he was really, you know, exclusively manning the outside because maybe they didn't trust both Najee Johnson and Joshua Williams in the game. I think there's a little underrated Joshua Williams here, a storyline here, where he is kind of playing better as the season's gone on. And this is a good example of what he can do. He's playing press man on Nico Collins on the outside there. And he's going to get into a trailing technique knowing that Jaden Hicks in this cover two look, you know, this is a cover two man. You know, he has help over the, you know, over the top. And so whether he goes outside or in, he's going to have some sort of help. So he's going to get into a nice trailing technique, but stay attached to the hip. And, you know, Nico rounds off this route because I think Joshua Williams is so in his pocket. It's hard to, you know, it's really hard to make that break. And so he's got to try to round this off. Joshua stays in his pocket and it just tightens the margin for error for this throw because he stays in his hip pocket. Jaden Hicks is driving on the throw already. And so you have a very small window to hit this throw. If it's high at all, boom, it's an interception. And so you just don't give CJ Stroud that margin for error. And guess what? You know, when you have a Chiefs pass rush that didn't necessarily get home at all here, but, you know, CJ Stroud stepped away from that throw a little bit because he saw Jones coming. Now you hope the pass rush gets there a little quicker, but it just tells you that the pass rush can help the coverage in these situations too. And yeah, just a little bit of an off throw. This was on the opening drive of the game. You got to pick over the middle. And what did I say? You know, they want to attack over the middle with Nico Collins. The Chiefs made a concerted effort not to let that happen. And you saw that with a lot of their help defense. You saw them constantly have someone, when Nico Collins tried to work across the field, you're going to see Christian Roll-and-Wallace line up on him in man here. But look, you're going to have Jay Reed pick him up, and then they're bracketing him in the red zone. There's nowhere to go to him. This was a touchdown. Dalton Schultz throws Trent McDuffie to the ground to get the touchdown. No big deal. And then you're going to see kind of the same thing where Jay Will is playing press man off the line of scrimmage, or, you know, a little off man, gets hands on him a little bit, but Jay Reed's there to really give him a shove and kind of just disrupt his route path, you know, and kind of take him out of his route at first. CJ Stroud has to find somewhere else to go. Bottom of the screen, see Jay Reed pick him up all the way across the field, go with him all the way across. You could have had, Christian Roll-and-Wallace do a better job maybe of kind of sinking and finding him once he realizes he's working across that way. But Jay Reed, same thing here. Christian Roll-and-Wallace playing that trail man coverage. Here we go. Goes inside, kind of has, is in his hip pocket enough to take him away. You know, if the pressure wasn't necessarily there, maybe CJ Stroud had a chance to go over the middle. But then obviously he does pivot back. It's a 16-yard catch, but who's right there? Jay Reed, just all over him as soon as he has the catch. And then just another example here, kind of bracketing him where you got that inside leverage, outside or up, or I should say bottom and top leverage, I should say, kind of sandwiching him. That's what you're going to see. And a lot of these plays were still with Tank Dell in the game. And so even with Tank Dell as a playmaker, they were doing some of this stuff to limit Nico Collins. But now it's all or nothing, really. He's the guy you need to get after. You need to, disrupt. And to to kind of saying what I was saying earlier, back this up a little bit. He did have some plays against the Chiefs. This was a 30-yard completion, but you see it's to the sideline. It's away from the safety help. He gets the pass. Joshua Williams, can't be great on every rep against a guy like Nico Collins. That's just a great route. Hard to be mad at that. But yeah, it's away from the safety help. First down. This was his biggest play of the game. He had 30 of his 60 yards on that play. So that tells you that they really limited him after that 60 yards over 10 targets. Another example, not even that big of a play, obviously, just kind of a nice completion, gets close to the sticks. But again, away from the safety help where it's one-on-one with Trent McDuffie. But again, when he does, they do want to go inside. They want to get Nico Collins the ball over the middle. And Trent McDuffie, one of the smartest corners in the NFL, I think already. You can already tell, just one of the most instinctual cornerbacks with the ball. And this is the perfect example of it right here. Plays with inside leverage, knows they want to get the ball to him over the middle. So he's just going to keep that inside leverage. And actually, yeah, Nico's like, look, I'm not going to run a slant. Like he's right on that. Like, why would I run that slant? But CJ Stroud feels that pressure. Here we go, marrying the pass rush in the coverage. He feels that pressure. He's like, oh shit, I gotta get rid of this. I'm just gonna throw it low for Nico, running the slant. But Trent's right there. Trent's got the interception. So again, it just really tells you that this team wants to get Nico the ball over the middle. The Chiefs last game denied that completely, did not let that happen. And you even saw, Caleb, this was, if you remember these attempts at quick screens from that last game, it was hilarious. The Houston had like 4 quick screens they used, and all of them went for like negative yards. And Trent McDuffie was on the tackle on a few of them. But yeah, I imagine you won't see these plays really in the game plan. I think they learned their lesson. Just having Nico get blown up a few times, on screens, trying to get him the ball real quickly. But the Chiefs are just on those. The Chiefs are always good at defending perimeter screens. I would think in this game, you may just see Joe Mixon kind of run the ball more and kind of just maybe, them kind of really commit to the run more instead of maybe trying these screens too much more. Any thoughts on that?
I think that they'll be ready for them if they do want to do that. I don't really think they are going to run much of these screens. Maybe they were running all this and they're going to set something up off of it. But I just think that with the way they're at, they're going to try to look for other quick ways to get the ball out. I just think the Chiefs have really consistently been good at this for a while now, since they've gotten a lot of these athletic cornerbacks they've had. But as beat up as the Texans' offensive line is, that could be hard for them to get the ball out any other way. So the Chiefs should still be ready for it. I think they're going to involve Mixon quite a bit in their game plan this week.
Yeah, and we all feel good about the Chiefs' run defense. I feel like they're very, stout when they need to be. This Texans offense, Bobby Slowick has kind of been a predictable play caller in terms of kind of, hey, 1st and 10, I'm going to run, play action off of that. It's pretty straightforward with what the Texans have been doing this year, and especially with the weapons they're limited with. They may have to keep it simple. But you touch on the offensive line, they are banged up. Starting right guard Shaq Mason was hurt in that Week 16 game against us, and he hasn't played since. Didn't practice the first practice this week, but was limited the second, so he may be on his way back into the lineup. But even his backup, number 70 here, Juice Scruggs, was limited in practice this week, and so they are banged up. And it's funny, you watch this play, and I'm highlighting left guard Titus Howard just completely, not realizing or recognizing, or even just no communication, I guess, one way or another, not picking up this stunt. It is funny. I was listening to 610, and Ron the Show Hughley happened to be on because now he's down in Houston, and he was talking about the Texans with the Kansas City guys, and he just happened to say, like, this pass protection has not been able to pick up stunts all year. And what do you know? You run into this, and like, oh yeah, I guess you're probably right. So probably see some stunts from the Chiefs pass rush. Are you excited to see the Chiefs pass rush on Saturday? Maybe try to take advantage of a guy like Laramie Tunsil too, who obviously a big name, leads the league in penalties this year. And you're seeing, here he just kind of gives up that inside shoulder. A guy like George Karlaftis or Charles Omenihu could do similar things.
Not the greatest football, not the greatest stretch of ball from Laramie Tunsil here to end the regular season for them. I'm excited, man. I think this is a week where all of the Chiefs guys on the defensive line can eat if they need to. Chris Jones, obviously, Omenihu, Tershawn Wharton, and Mike Dane could go to work on these guards that are struggling. George Karlaftis, especially against their right tackle right now, I could see him putting some moves on. So this could be a really fun game. And I like, that play right there. I've watched that play a few times. I mean, that's Tierre Tart. That's a run stuffer, not like known for his tremendous level of athleticism, just kind of getting by the left guard there, Howard. I mean, that's a good job. That should be holding. Like, he did get held. There's no real attempt for the left guard to really move his feet and fight it off. But that's got to make you feel good seeing that, knowing that Chris Jones is coming in.
Yeah, no, you mentioned right tackle. Blake Fisher, rookie from Notre Dame. We scouted him this offseason. Young prospect, if I recall. Mm-hmm. So, definitely a talented dude. And he played against the Chiefs in the Week 16 game too. So definitely a guy. But just, again, a rookie. Chris Jones may feast on that. But yeah, you just have so many options on this pass rush right now. Think about Mike Dane and Turk Wharton, playing against some of these guard, this guard play where, your interior three you hear a lot of people say Houston has, one of the, worst in terms of just kind of steadiness in the interior three. I think it is going to take a lot of the inside rush to really be, the factor here. So you feeling good about Turk Wharton and Mike Dana getting after it inside?
I do, and I think that the rest helps the big guys, helps the heavy contact guys like them. I think it makes all the difference in the world for those guys to get off their feet, to be able to just hang out a little bit. I know all these dudes are like, they're going to be like the college guys. They've had too much rest. I'm like, it's not even the same atmosphere as that, dude. I'm like, yeah, the college guys get time off, but I'm like, they haven't been doing this as long as the NFL guys have. Just if you think back to everything, all the hitting you saw in St. Joe, they've been doing that like all this time. So yeah, they're going to get a little bit of rest is going to be needed here, especially for the veterans who've been a part of these Super Bowl runs. Now they're getting a little bit of extra time. I think that's going to make all the difference in the world. I think they're going to come out juiced up. Really, I do feel kind of bad for Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa because they're both obviously in the decline of their career. They've had outstanding seasons, and really, C.J. Stroud picked an outstanding time to use his legs, which he's always had. He just selectively uses.
Yeah. No, I think you saw him. I was kind of trying to make like maybe there's like a stat that can show that he scrambled more than he had in other games, and it was, he didn't scramble more necessarily than he does in other games. It was certainly, not one of his least scrambled games, but I think you just saw the bigger, the longer runs where this was in the fourth quarter, 3rd and 10, they need it, and you can see he's kind of quick to kind of take off and use his legs. You kind of mentioned it in our Slack chat, but we saw this in that national championship game when he did, almost, take it home for Ohio State, against Georgia. He showed a lot in that game, and or was it a semifinal? I don't think
it was the semifinal, and the whole storyline was, he's going to be sitting meat for the Georgia defense, and he came in and just cooked. That was the game when I thought he was going to be better than Anderson or Young. I mean, just because he went out there, he cooked them. Like he was scrambling around, throwing Mahomes type passes. People are like, well, he had Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm like, yeah, but you still have to thread those passes in there, man. I was like, come on now.
Yeah, I think we've learned one thing about C.J. Stroud and his football career is that he's a gamer. He will take it upon himself. I just feel like right now Houston may not have enough for him to do it, to pull something off in this playoff run, but. He's definitely, a future franchise, or he is a franchise quarterback, obviously, but he's only getting better. I know this was kind of a down year for him, but stuff like this where, just kind of being more willing to use his athleticism, use his legs, don't be a sitting duck. That was obviously a rollout, so a little easier to kind of just take off and get the easy yards. But again, 3rd and 10 here, just kind of, goes first read and just says, look, I need to make a play. Like that's just the kind of thing that maybe kind of unlocks in quarterbacks' brains as they go. And CJ Stroud's someone that is maybe saying, look, if I'm going to do this, if we're going to pull this off, I can't just be sitting back in that pocket, because guess what? The Chiefs defense loves guys just sitting in the pocket. They don't want guys using their legs. Joe Burrow kind of is the kind of the perfect mix where he knows when to sit in the pocket, and as soon as the Chiefs start crowding that pocket, he can slip out and make plays. So CJ Stroud will maybe watch some Joe Burrow film, maybe try to replicate that, even though, the Chiefs have had – it's really been the Chiefs' offense that doesn't do well against the Bengals.
Well, it's funny to say. I wonder whose film he would have watched to figure out how to scramble on some of the Chargers players.
Yeah,
like maybe he was taking a little bit of that 1-5 tape, because no one scrambles on the Chargers better than 15. So I wonder if he maybe kind of took a look at that and kind of took a few insights of his own.
No, that is true though. Like Mahomes is probably the most efficient, scrambler in the NFL, just in terms of never wasting a scramble. If he's taking off down the field, it's because it's the right play. He's gonna get, enough of whatever he needs to get, or get it, super close. Like he is never the type to leave the pot, or I shouldn't say leave the pocket, but really scramble and run himself. He knows when to pull it out. And again, CJ Stroud has that kind of those intangibles that maybe as he grows, he can find those more of those times to be that playmaker that they need. And he'll need to do it on Saturday. That's for sure. I think this Chiefs defense is geared up. Talk about the pass rush, talk about the linebackers, talk about the secondary, Jalen Watson back. I don't know. I didn't see. Did you have a score prediction for the game? I didn't see if you put it out.
I have not put out a score prediction yet. I think I'll go. I'm pretty bullish that the Chiefs' offense is going to come out and be extremely explosive and efficient. I just think that it's been building up to this. You saw the last 2 weeks of the season, one of which against the Texans and the Steelers, both pretty good defenses. Not a lot of those guys had answers for what they could do. So I'll go with something like I'll go 27 to let me go 27-18. Chiefs get the dub at Arrowhead. I think that's a pretty reasonable score to expect. It's going to be cold at Arrowhead too. I think we got a high of 26 on Saturday. We'll be kind of getting in the warmest part of the day. Things will cool off. The wind maybe playing a little bit of a factor as well. So yeah, playoff football time, man. We haven't had a game. I don't think there's been a game at Arrowhead yet this year that's been below freezing except for today, or except for on Saturday.
Well, and think about playoff Arrowhead just to finish it off here. We didn't really get it last year. I mean, playoff Arrowhead was very limited by that negative 27-degree wind chill Dolphins game. That didn't, that was a fun atmosphere, but it wasn't true playoff Arrowhead. We've been starved of it for 2 years now. The last big Arrowhead playoff game was that Bengals AFC Championship. So fired up to get back into a full, ready to go Arrowhead, playoff Arrowhead. I'll see you there, Caleb. We'll be there. Hope to see others there as well. And let's enjoy this ride. Let's just not maybe fall into a 24-0 hole. If there's going to be a little bit of a deficit, Caleb, maybe just 10-0, 13. Let's not get all the way to 24 again. Any thoughts on that before we get out of here?
Not this time. Let's go ahead and just take care of business as someone that was there for that the last time.
Yeah. Shout out Bad Luck Chuck. I think he dipped and gave us all that turnaround. All right, yeah, it's playoff time. You can tell I'm giddy. I'm rambling now. Appreciate everyone joining tonight. Appreciate everyone watching, following along. Make sure you check out the site. We both have good preview stuff coming up. Writing. I always have my 5 things to watch. That'll be out tomorrow. Make sure you get ready for this game. Get ready for this Super Bowl run. Going for history. Going for a three-peat. That's what it's all about. Appreciate you, Chiefs Kingdom. We will catch you next week.